Let me hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3. It's Monday at 9:45. We won't be done till 10:45, and then you'll be up till 2. It's gonna be ugly.
It's going to be a shit show.
Let's just try not to make money mistakes. How's that?
Okay. Who's your favorite athlete ever?
Michael Jordan. Why? You don't even need to ever ask that.
And you watched The Last Dance, right?
Of course. I made the family watch The Last Dance.
And you remember the flu game, right?
Oh, yeah. He played during the flu. I know.
1997.
Yes.
Tied with the Jazz 2-2. Willed them to win with 38 points while having the flu.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do tonight in this podcast.
I'm the Michael Jordan of Skiptown All-Stars.
You are. You're going to play through the flu.
I'm here, so bring it.
This show is either going to be brilliant or it's going to be a total dumpster fire. Let's roll.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to sell everything and travel the country at the tender age of 50? Well, with our last kid off to college and the ability to now work remotely, we've decided to do just that. So we're selling the house, loading up the dog, and hitting every city from California to Florida. We're scouring the country for a new place to call home and dragging you into every restaurant, Airbnb, and tourist trap we encounter along the way. This is the Skiptown All-Stars podcast.
Welcome back, All-Stars. We are so happy to be with you for another episode. Thanks for listening in last week. We got a lot of great feedback on our landlord fail episode, the epic renter fail.
We did. Yeah, everyone thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Celebrating. They're finding triumph in our defeat.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, we have another one for you this week.
We're consistent. How about that?
We are. So it turns out after we bought the house, we actually needed to also get a vehicle because if you remember, Denise had to turn in the second rental van back during our trip. And we've been borrowing her brother's car ever since. So it's been a weird state of affairs for us being this age and having to borrow cars and living in other people's houses and couch surfing, basically.
Yeah, it has been. But if we had to do it with anyone, my brother and sister-in-law really have been the best. They basically let us take the car whenever we wanted. What started out as, hey, I may need to borrow your car for a couple of weeks until we get one, turned into 4 months of me permanently having the keys to that car.
Yep. So in between Mexico and LA and everywhere else we bounced around to, it didn't make any sense for us to buy a car as long as we could poach my brother-in-law. So that's exactly what we did.
Well, yeah, because we were gone. I mean, honestly, so we've been in and out of Florida so much that I think we technically have been in Florida maybe a total of 8 weeks, even though we landed in September, end of September. So we've made no sense to buy a car and it just pretty much sit. Well, it made no sense to us, but I'm sure my brother thought it would have made perfect sense to buy a car.
Yeah. So we finally attempted to do that a few weeks back. And before we get into that, I just wanted to mention that Denise is a little under the weather with a cold.
Yep.
And a broken crown.
Oh, we don't need to even go into that.
And I'm getting over 5 weeks of a cough. So, yeah, like we said at the top of the episode, this is, we're really rolling the dice on this one. We are recording late. We are recording later, a personal record for us. We have never recorded. By the time we record this and get it posted, it's actually going to be our deadline.
Yep, it will be. And this is the first time it's ever happened. Just circumstances kind of like out of our control.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a place to record the last couple of days. And so that's why it's delayed. But we're here now.
So let's get into the car episode. You actually had to lead the charge on the car episode. I had an idea of the vehicles I wanted. So I'll go into that real quick. All the way back in June of last year, when she and I were talking about going on the road, I started pricing vehicles. I looked at the Mazda CX-9. I looked at the Mazda CX-50. I looked at the Subaru Outback. What else was I looking at during that time?
I think you even looked at a Hyundai.
Highlander.
I think you looked at a Hyundai one time. Like you were like,
I did.
You were like the Santa Fe.
The Santa Fe.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. I just really wanted a fun vehicle to like traipse around the country and get muddy and not be afraid to like take it up one of the back roads. Like when we were in Idaho City, we could have used a 4-wheeler
Did you ever
an
look
all-wheel
at a
drive.
Toyota 4Runner? I can't remember.
I did. I think the 4Runners were out of our price range, but we were looking at the Highlander for one hot minute.
Oh, but you were not looking at the Highlander back in June. You were looking at fun cars.
I looked at a bunch of cars, but yeah. And the Highlander is a fun car, but the 4Runner is more of their trail vehicle. It's just a little higher end. So I think it's a little more pricey. Anyway, didn't matter because we didn't buy any of those back in June. We decided to rent a car instead, but that's sort of the backdrop. We wanted something that was good on gas mileage, had cargo space, and
was comfy. Like it had to be comfy. That for me was a huge selling point. Like
sure.
You can get a cool car, zippy as heck, all the cargo in the world, but if you are uncomfortable in that seat, it doesn't much matter. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. We spend a lot of time in the car.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, honestly, just my opinion. I think the best car for the road is a minivan. I mean, it's so comfortable. It has all the space you need. Decent on gas mileage. Like for me, the minivan was the best car to travel across the country with, and still, I think a really great car if you're going to constantly do road trips like us.
Hard pass.
Okay.
And not just because it's a minivan, or I'm not like degrading minivan culture. We actually had some really nice ones when we were driving around. I just find that generally speaking, minivans, for as far back as you can pull the seat, it still leaves me wanting a little extra leg room when I'm driving. There's only so far back I can go. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy talk.
I get a little crampy after a while. So
look, I know a minivan wasn't our aesthetic, but I'm just saying it's really a fabulous car to drive across the country. That's it.
Ultimately, for me, it came down to, did we really need that much space? I thought we needed space. I just didn't think we needed that much. And again, it came back to legroom. So I knew that some of the other SUVs out there were a little more conducive to a guy my height and my size fitting in the front seat. And you talk about comfort. I wanted it as well.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, we haven't bought a car in 13 years. I mean, honestly, because we really let our cars run as long as they can.
I thought you were going to say rot.
No, I take very good care of my car. So I don't know.
We did take very good care of our cars, but after 13, 14 years, they were not going to make the trip across the country.
No, my point is, the reason I brought that up was because the last time we went car shopping, I basically bought the car I wanted and you bought the car you wanted. And my car ended up being our family car. And you weren't like over the top about it. I loved it, but you were just like, eh. So this time around, I really honestly was like, just buy whatever you want. Like I didn't want to be part of the process at all, truthfully. Like I didn't even test drive. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could care less about test driving it. Like I just was like, pick the car you want, because the last car that was our family car, I picked. So really that's how I went into it. And then you started looking in June and I was kind of out of it at that point. I was like, all right, whatever you want.
Yeah. And to be honest, I wasn't really looking for a family car. She and I have gone back and forth on this, and I wasn't really thinking about packing 3 kids into the back. I know that when the kids are in town, we need to get all 5 of us to the movies, but I also know that eventually they're going to be bringing home significant others. And I wasn't really focused, frankly, on getting a third bench, getting a car that seats 7 people. I didn't care. I wanted a car that was good for you and I, could handle the dog and our stuff.
Okay, so that wasn't important to you, but I was a little surprised that, okay, look, I know we talked about getting like a sedan and this and that and having fun. So whatever. I mean, again, like I let you take the lead on it.
You're going to sneeze. Bless you.
Excuse me. Okay, hold on. It's going to be another one.
Okay. We'll wait.
Okay, excuse me.
There you go. All right.
Go ahead.
First quarter. We're still in the first quarter, hon.
We are. How many points am I up?
You only have 4 points so far.
All right.
You got to get to 38 by the end.
Okay.
All right, moving on. So anyway, having as much cargo space, like I felt like in many ways, Denise was still stuck in like 2008 when we had 3 little critters and all their friends to stuff in the car. I didn't want that. She kind of did. That became apparent throughout the process. We'll get to that in a minute. But we finally started going out to look at cars. And our first stop was really because we wanted to test drive a bunch of different cars.
Yeah.
So for us, the most logical place, I searched. It seems like Carvana is going to go out of business soon because
You mentioned that to me.
yeah, everybody is talking about that. Everybody in the financial sector is talking about Carvana going out of business. And I kept getting alerts from them. Like I just went and logged into their website one time and just kind of looked at a bunch of cars. And I kept getting alerts from them over the course of the week before we actually went to a car lot. And some of those prices were dropping on some of those vehicles. Some of them dramatically, like the one dropped like $1,500 or something like that in the space of a week. I forget what it was. It was a Volkswagen Atlas or something like that, which, we were also interested in Atlas. So we decided we weren't going to go the route of just picking a specific car lot that sells specific cars. We weren't just going to head to the Toyota dealer, drive Toyotas, and then try to move on to the Subaru dealer. We went straight to CarMax. We had a great experience there when we bought the ride that Mia blew a tire on back in the Salt Lake City episode. But the kids have a Volkswagen Jetta, and Mia has it now in Salt Lake City. It is serving her very well. We're really happy with the purchase, and we had a really great experience buying from them.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I bet that they know people come and do that. I bet they know that. It's no secret that people go there just to test drive cars because they have every model and make.
Which is funny because when we bought the Jetta, the guy who was there with us didn't really put a cap on how many things we wanted to drive. I think we only drove 3 cars that day. But when we got to this one in Florida, the lady was real quick to tell us, we're pretty busy today, so you're only going to get to drive 2. Well,
do you think that's because people go there to do that?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And I do think they were busy.
I didn't even think about that.
They were busy, but we kind of thought at first it was like, this is kind of bullshit.
Totally. I was like, oh, please, I'm here to buy a car and you're going to limit me to 3. I don't think so.
Yeah. So
I love how organized you were, though. Like you literally had 8 printouts of all the cars you were interested in, which really made the process like move along so well.
Thanks.
'Cause the thing about CarMax, and I don't know if everyone knows this, is that it's live on your phone. So whatever you see on your phone is what they have on the car lot. It's not like you walk in and you say, oh, do you have something? I like this, I like this Honda Accord, but do you have it in gray? No. If they have it in gray, it's on their website. There's no playing games when you walk in. So also the risk is that the drive from your house to the CarMax, that car you have in your head that you saw online could very well be gone the minute you get there, and it could disappear on the website.
Yeah.
So it was great though, because James didn't like waste anyone's time, including the sales girl. Like he had 8 printouts of the cars he was interested in. And immediately when we got there, well, not immediately, but once we got on the car lot, it was really apparent that like 5 of those weren't gonna it was not gonna fit what we wanted. Like, one was dirty on the inside, like just the fabric I remember was dirty. The other one, like we didn't like the inside color. One didn't have leather, even though I think it listed or he thought it was leather. Another one, there was a reason, but 5 were boom. They were like not even.
There was one that was sold already.
Oh, okay.
There was one and I was going to throw it in there when you were talking about how you can see it and it's live on their
website.
When you look on their website, if you look on a lot of websites for dealers, it's kind of a bait and switch. Like you'll say, "Oh, I want the Jeep Wrangler, the 2019," and you get there and that one's not there. Or you'll call them ahead of time and you'll say, "Hey, is that Jeep Wrangler, the gray one, still there?" And they'll say, "Yeah, come on down." And then you get there and it's not even on the lot.
We had that with Parker. Like we bought hers from a dealership in Idaho and they had all over their website, $1,500 for your trade-in, no matter what. They had it everywhere on the website. We brought in her car and all of a sudden there was some loophole as to why we couldn't get $1,500 for her trade-in. I mean, dealerships are still like shady people, like legit dealerships. I mean, if you can avoid them because the experience at CarMax, I mean, we're not getting sponsored by them or anything like that. We just had we had
a good experience personally.
Yeah. Really, like you go in, there's no fuss, there's no nothing. It's like the price is what it is. But the odd thing is you actually have to walk around with your phone. And I was telling my sister-in-law and brother that like, it is such an odd car buying experience now, especially if you're going to a CarMax, because you could literally be standing in front of a car and like, oh, I really like this. And then it could disappear on the website because someone's inside purchasing it as you're looking at it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And
It's
even
really
though,
weird.
but you know, to their credit, we got there, we were able to actually look at the car that we were interested in that had sold because it actually was there on the lot. It was just sold. We weren't allowed to drive it because it was somebody else's car now. So at least it was there and they weren't trying to like pull people in from the street and saying, hey, you know.
That's true.
Yeah. So we have a, you know, we have a 2022 Camaro and there was no 2022 Camaro anywhere to be seen. So
we have this 2019 Jeep. I know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that. Yeah, not at CarMax, but other places.
Yeah. So the other thing that I liked was that, you know, obviously there's no pressure. It's one of those places with the newer model of purchasing where you just go and whatever the price is on the internet, that's the price. We would get to dealers, we'll talk about in a second, where the internet listed price was not the price they were trying to sell us when we went to dealerships.
That did happen.
So unlike that, at CarMax, what you see on the internet is what you're actually going to see on the sticker when you arrive.
I mean, the salespeople even say to you, what does it say on the internet? Like, because sometimes they don't have prices on the cars. In fact, the CarMax we went to in Florida didn't have any prices. They had a barcode, or I'm sorry, a QR code. And you just, you know, scan the QR code and that's what the price came up. That was not the case when we bought Mia's car. There were prices on the sticker. This was different for sure.
Yeah. And so we decided to pick a CarMax that was a little further away. The closest one to us is a place in, the closest CarMax to us is a place in Ocala, but they just didn't seem to have the inventory of SUVs that we wanted. So we drove all the way out to Sanford. It was a schlep, but it was kind of worth it because they had a full parking lot and,
of course.
A full parking lot of cars. They had a full parking lot of customers too. So we walked around and we settled on test driving. What was the first thing we test drove?
Oh, the very first car was a Toyota Highlander.
It was the first car? Oh, it was the first car.
And then the second car was the Santa
Lexus,
Fe. Nope. Santa Fe was the second car.
The Hyundai Santa Fe.
And the third car was going to be the Volkswagen.
The Volkswagen Touareg. We had looked inside the Touareg. We decided we were going to drive it anyway as our third car. And yes, we talked the lady into letting us have 3 drives. Denise was successful in that endeavor. And we had driven the Highlander. So let's start with that. Let's just start in order. We drove the Highlander. I liked the interior, the leather. The dashboard was great. All the features and functions were great. Denise wasn't driving, but as I was getting onto the main drag there outside of the car lot, I realized right away, like, this thing does not have a ton of pickup.
Yeah.
So, it was a little sluggish, in fact. And, I jumped on it and it was still like kind of not chugging along. One of the reasons I didn't like our old Acadia, our GMC Acadia, was because it did a similar thing, which is really difficult when you're going uphill and you have to be, hitting a freeway at 55 miles an hour from an on-ramp. And I just envisioned the same thing where it's sluggish, people honking, people swerving, and all that other stuff.
When you're taking a road trip, you have to be mindful of the fact that you have to speed up and slow down on the freeway. You're going around cars.
Yeah.
Trucks are going around you. So you need a vehicle where you can hit it once in a while if you need to. And that Highlander wasn't that for us.
It had a great cabin. It was just not really.
It was beautiful.
It didn't have that feel like it was an extension of the driver. And I know I'm spoiled because look. I'm coming from the perspective of having, like, your car. We know what your car was. Your car was a family ride. My car was a BMW 5 Series sedan. And even though it was old, the thing still stood up. It stood the test of time. I mean, from 2007 to 2022, the car just, like, I love that car. You know this. I love the way it handled. It didn't have a ton of features on the inside. It was really bare bones. You hated it. But I freaking love that car. It was like the best car I've ever had in my life. So.
Yes, you did love that car. And it was a great drive. And I'll admit that car was a great drive. Just very bare bones in the inside. Not a whole lot of luxury.
No. And you kept saying you hated the cup holders. You hated everything. So Anyway, that car's dead. The car's dead to us. So
it's really hard to compare any car when you have a BMW. Let's be honest. I mean, that's a tough car to compare to.
Yeah. Anyway, so we kind of sat on the Highlander for a second and we were like, okay, well, let's try the
it was the Hyundai.
The
Because-
Hyundai Santa Fe.
Yeah, because it had plenty of room. It looked pretty. It was nice. And then we drove that. And I remember that the inside was fabric, which we wanted something that was leather, only because when you're in a car for hours and hours and hours, no matter how careful you are, spills can happen, whether you're drinking coffee or a soda or anything. So neither one of us wanted fabric. And plus, like when we went to the Narrows, we were wet. And it was like to sit on a fabric it just wasn't practical for what we're trying to do.
Right.
The car itself, like the ride was good, I thought, but you drove it. Like, do you remember the pickup was decent, right?
Yeah, it was good. It was actually zippier than the Highlander for sure. I
Didn't
don't know.
have a lot of features on the inside though. I think it was like less than the Highlander. I remember thinking when we both got out of it, we're like, it was a nice ride, better in leather, and kind of basic on the inside.
It could have been. It would have been a great rental car. I just could not see myself driving it for 10 or 12 years. You know, I just didn't envision rolling up 10 years from now in a Hyundai. And I guess we should be ultimately like pretty clear with everybody. Like when we buy cars, we buy them. We generally don't lease. We're not the leasing type. And so, and especially when we're going to be logging the number of miles we're intending to log here in the next year, a purchase was kind of our only option anyway. So, so all that to say, you know, I didn't think it was going to hold its value over time because the interior was kind of flimsy. I'm not sure if there's a better
just
word.
weren't crazy about it.
I
So
wasn't.
for a car that we have to be in for 6 hours and we're going to have for at least 10 years, you got to be crazy about it.
Yeah.
So then the third car we were going to drive was the Volkswagen Touareg. But as we're bringing the Hyundai back, we
a little
pull up-
soccer mom.
Yeah, a little soccer mom was putting a baby car seat in there. And I was like, what is she doing in our car?
Yep.
And then and then the sales lady said, I'm so sorry, but while you were on a test drive, and this happens at CarMax, she test drove that car and it looks like she's going to buy it.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, bummer. So the Highlander was out.
Yeah.
The Hyundai was out. It was like, oh, what are we going to do now? Because this was our list. This was like the other 5 didn't work.
Yeah. So in the showroom, there was a Lexus. I think that one was an NX 350 or I forget
It was a smaller one.
It was an NX and but man, it was slick. Sitting inside the cabin, it was really, really nice. So she had seen us looking at it and when we went back out to the lot, we were like, okay, well,
Gotta start from square
we
one
we got to find one more car to drive here. She recommended the RX 350. Is it the RX 350
I'm
or
not
450?
sure. It was like, it's a sportier SUV Lexus. It was like a 2019. It didn't have a whole lot of miles on it. Lexus wasn't even on our list because it just seemed like it would be out of our budget. I mean, we want a nice luxury car, but it didn't really ever like even click with us because it's such an expensive car, even used.
Yeah.
So when she brought this car around, it was black. It was so nice. Like everything about it was nice, but it wasn't like an overdone Lexus. Like, first of all, Lexuses aren't really overdone. They're not super flashy. This was just more sleek. And as much as I was thinking like, is this really a road car? When we got in, it felt like it could be a road car.
It was really nice. The interior was nice. They had the wood trim.
Yeah.
It was a Lexus RX 350.
Okay.
And so we drove that. It had great pickup. It was nimble. It had all these things. It was just how much was she asking for? Like,
It was
were
a
they
lot. It
asking
was like
for that?
$37,000. It was more than we wanted to
for
spend.
a 2019.
Yeah, and we were looking at like, honestly, we wanted to keep it around $32,000. And we were looking at like 2019s and above. So we were flexible on dates, a little flexible on cash.
Yeah.
But like 37,000 just, I don't know, that was a lot.
Yeah, it was for sure. And it was a 2019 that didn't have Apple CarPlay. It wasn't as big a feature.
It didn't have all-wheel drive. That was a big
It didn't have all-wheel drive. I did want something with all-wheel drive. Like that was my first choice. But then it also didn't have the CarPlay on that particular year in that particular model. It makes no sense why they didn't change everything over all at once in their product line. But whatever. For whatever reason, that particular model didn't have it until 2020. So we drove it around. We really liked it. It was out of our range. And we were like, you know what? We're going to start making bad decisions now. So let's go to lunch.
We were tired and hungry.
Yeah. So we got in the car. We left
told her-
CarMax.
No, we told her no in that car. We just said it's too expensive.
Did we?
We did.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you said we're going to think about it. Okay. We may have said that.
All right. So we got in the car. We passed your new favorite restaurant ever since Texas. What is it?
Hooters.
Oh my God.
It's so crazy. I cannot believe I like this place.
But-
it goes against everything I believe in.
Yeah, but I was totally up for it because at the time the Buffalo Bills were playing the Miami Dolphins, and I knew the crowd inside would be hype, being that we're in Florida. So we went in to watch that game and have a little lunch and figure out what we were going to do next.
Okay, that's his version. Here's how it really went. We went in to have lunch. I ate lunch, and he was on his phone for 45 minutes.
Looking at cars.
Yep, that's what you were doing. Totally.
Yeah, I guess I was.
And
I
so
didn't
then
watch much of the game.
he like lifted his head up after I paid the check. I don't even know how you ate because you never looked up at your food. And then he looked at me, he goes, "Okay, we're going back to get that car." And I was like, "The Lexus?" And he said, "Yes."
Yep.
And I was like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "No, I've been looking on online at all these cars." He's like, "It's actually a really good deal. I know it's out of our price range, but it's actually a really good deal." So we should go back and get it.
And so we did. And we went back and we talked to our friend at the CarMax dealership. And she said, okay. I said, I just want to look at it real quick. I have just a couple things I want to check out, but we are very, very interested in making a purchase after all. So it was still way more than we wanted to spend. But at that point I was like, you know what? I really like that car. I like the interior. You seem to like the interior. It had the cargo space you wanted. It didn't have the all-wheel drive. I had given that up at that point.
And you were researching that you could get CarPlay installed like by a third party. So you
for
were
like $300 or
fine with
$400, I can get CarPlay in an aftermarket upgrade.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, like we went to the car dealership and we're actually going to leave with the car. I mean, it had been like 4 or 5 hours at this point.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, awesome. We're leaving with a car. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah. So we went out to the parking lot and got to the car, and tell the people what happened after that. Tell the people, honey.
So we get to the
This is where you get to rack up 4 points.
So we get to the car, right? And our salesperson has a little girl who's like in training, like a little sales assistant with her. And so our salesperson says, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. You could just take a look at the car, kind of refresh your memory a little bit. I'm going to wrap up a sale that's happening right now at my desk. So let me just run in.
Mm-hmm.
Give you 5 minutes and then you come in and we'll start the process. And we were like, great. So we're looking at the car and then all of a sudden another salesperson comes over and she starts taking the sticker off the car.
Off the window, yeah.
And James goes, I'm buying this car. And she looked at him, she goes, well, I don't know if you're buying this car because I have somebody who wants to test drive it. And does your salesperson have a work order in on it? And the little sales assistant hauls ass up to the CarMax, right? Our salesperson comes out. She comes up to us and she goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But while we were looking at this car, that other salesperson was logging this car in the computer for a test drive. And I did not get a chance to log it in that you were purchasing it because you just walked back. We just walked in.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to allow this other party, this other couple to test drive this car. I looked at him and I just started laughing because honestly, like at that point, the Volkswagen had been like sold out from under us. And I looked at him and just started laughing. I said, there's nothing better for a salesperson than to tell her potential sale people, whatever they are, her potential clients, that somebody else wants a car. There's nothing better. Like that car's gone. Like you
we
can just
sealed the
forget
deal
it.
for that sales agent. Not only
we should
that,
have gotten the commission.
We should have gotten the commission. And not only that, those people had already been denied credit on whatever car it was they were originally trying to purchase. So this lady was extra hungry now that she knew she had spent all that time with them and they failed the credit check on the previous vehicle that she had already spent time with them on, doing all the paperwork on.
And they came over though from another place. Like they came over from another place to test drive a different car. And then you're right. I don't know. The whole thing just was a very gray area.
It was a mess.
But I said to James, I go, best know that car is going to be sold. Yeah. I go, all she has to do is walk in there and say, oh, there was another couple that actually thought they were buying this car. that couple didn't even have to test drive that
Yep.
car at that point.
Oh yeah. It's like a live auction where somebody has the prize cow and they put it up there, and it's not until Jeb over in the other side of the bleachers raises his stick and says, yes, I want this prize cow, that all of a sudden Jedediah has to have that cow too.
Well, here's the best part. So I say to him as they go on a test drive, we'll stand here and wait, but that car is not ours. And then he says to me, Denise, I've been looking for cars for months now. In the last 2 weeks that I've really been like searching cars, that car from this CarMax has come up as for sale the past 10 days. Okay.
Yep.
Like
nobody
that is
had given that
insane.
car a look in 10 days. Well,
Yeah.
maybe somebody had driven it, but
It was for sale.
it was
for
on their
Christmas.
website for a while. And of course, the one day that we're there, the moment we're there.
Yeah.
And so
So we left with no car.
we
They
left.
bought the car.
Yeah, they bought the car. I stood around for a while. You went into the lobby. You had already given up. I just took the opportunity, since CarMax loves to keep all of their cars open so you can actually look inside them. I must have sat in 15 cars while I was waiting.
Because it was a
and
while.
I was like, oh, she's never going to go for this. Oh, the Audi, it's too expensive. Oh, this. Oh, a Cadillac. I don't know. That's going to be a lot of miles on a Caddy. It makes no sense.
Cadillac doesn't make any sense to do a road trip. Are you kidding?
I know. We're not going to be taking a Cadillac up the mountains of North Carolina. So then finally, Denise came out and she said, yeah, that car is like gone. So, excuse me. So, yeah, we went home empty handed that night. It was a sulky ride home.
Yeah, it really was. And then the next day, we went out car shopping again.
Yeah. And going back to when I said I had been looking at the Mazda CX-50 and the Mazda CX-9, I had heard from several friends, especially in the LA area, they really loved how the car handled itself in city traffic, and the CX-9 specifically. They loved the cabin space, and they also loved how the thing was good for road trips. It was a great car to take to like Lake Tahoe or somewhere like that. So
They're very zippy.
they are. I frankly was more interested in the CX-50. It was smaller. It's basically Mazda's answer to the Subaru Outback. So it's more of a wagon. I test drove it and I freaking loved that car. It was so like, it was as if I was driving my old BMW. It was so responsive. I loved it. You, on the other hand, weren't crazy about the cabin space, and you weren't crazy about the cargo space, I should say, and you were not crazy about the interior.
No, I test drove a Mazda SUV like 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I was looking at cars for our family. And yeah, it's zippy, but it's so basic and the seats aren't comfortable. They have not changed that interior in 10 years. It's like so basic on the inside. And again, the seats aren't comfortable. So for me, I was like out. I was like, no. The minute I sat down, I was like, we have to sit in this car for like 6 hours. Now, there are other models. Maybe the seats are more comfortable. I don't want Mazda haters like on me about it. But like I could just tell you, for what I was looking for, it didn't compare in comfort to the Toyota Highlander or even like the Lexus. I mean, even at that point, the Hyundai was more comfortable on the inside. But yes, a very zippy car. It would be fun to drive on the road. No question about it.
Yeah, now they did have a touring package that we didn't drive, but that car, brand new. The thing you got to remember about the CX-50 and the Mazda, it's only been out for 2 years, I think, 2022 and now 2023. So there's no such thing as buying a used CX-50, really.
Oh,
and so what you're basically doing is, I thought, like, I would still recommend a Mazda. Anybody who says, I want a brand new vehicle and I want an SUV or some sort of crossover wagon SUV type thing, I would still recommend it if you had the budget for it. Like, you can get a brand new CX-50 for like, and a really decked out package for probably like 41K, something like that. So I would still recommend it. For us, it was a little too rich for our blood. We didn't necessarily want a brand new car. It wasn't like tremendously important for us to say we have a 2022 or a 2023. So,
well, let's be honest too. The one thing that we realized while going to dealerships now, because at that point CarMax was a bust and we had to move on. We didn't have a lot of choices. I mean, whether I wanted the touring package or not, I don't even think they had it on the lot.
Like, oh, they did. Yeah, that was like the decked out one on the corner. The one, like, they had one with the tent in the lobby.
Okay.
And then they had
Remember that one?
the olive green one. That was like the full blown touring
okay.
package with the roof rack and all that stuff.
Okay, well then we were fortunate at that car lot because so many car lots did not have a selection for us to drive. So the fact that we never test drove the green one though, did we?
No, we didn't, because I already knew it was out of our what
Okay.
we wanted to spend. So, but you just bring up a good point. Inventory really became apparent to us. Inventory was an issue this day more than any other.
Gosh, even the next day too. Like it's a joke. Like I walked on a Toyota lot and I said, I want to try a Highlander again. Like I just wanted to try it again. Like just to refresh our memory. They didn't have one. Like you weren't with me. This was a different day when I had to like finally.
That's a day where I checked out.
Yeah, I had to take over because I was like, he's toast right now. But so we would get on the lot.
I was up until 2 a.m.
I know he was like Forrest Gump. He was like OCD, wouldn't stop, and I'm like, enough already with the cars on the internet.
I think you mean Rain Man.
Oh yeah, Rain Man. Okay, yeah,
Right.
You were Rain Man. Anyway, so I got my movies mixed up.
Yep.
So, but we did. There were a couple of times when we got on a lot, and there weren't things that we wanted to see.
Yeah.
That Mazda one had a few choices, but certainly it's not like. Okay, anyone above the age of 55, you just remember stepping on a car lot and there would be hundreds of cars and like at least 15 or 20 of the same model that you were interested in. Those days are over. And I cannot even tell you why, because it's 2023. It's long after the pandemic, but those days right now are gone. Like you are stuck with whatever they have unless you want to wait.
I don't know. My theories on that. I think I think there's a little bit of market manipulation going on with the suppliers. And then obviously the dealers are only getting so many cars at a time. So now all of a sudden it's a seller's market. I mean, if somebody needs a car and you only have 10 cars on your lot and you're seeing 40 people come in and out of your
It's terrible.
dealership per day, I think that's like a pretty conservative estimate, really. Like 40 people from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night.
I know, but you know what? I got to tell you, they made car buying was always terrible. Now they really made it worse because now there's nothing available. So what was already bad is now worse.
Okay. So speaking of worse, we went to the Subaru dealership up the street in Ocala.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So let's get into that. We are greeted right away as soon as we pull in the parking lot by a young guy, snappy guy. He came out. He was,
Maybe 23.
Maybe 23. He was a youngster.
22.
He was really young.
Yeah.
And I was like, right away, I was like, oh man, here we go. And so I'm like, what is this kid even going to know about these vehicles that I haven't already read online? So, we said to him, oh, we want to look at the Subaru Ascent. Right. And we went to, we cracked open the car. It had all the space we wanted. It had everything we wanted, truthfully. Just the only problem was it was like $42,000.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it was a 2021.
Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it was already a couple years old. It was $42,000, and great that the car has held its value or whatever. But I'm like, that's just insane. It wasn't even like the touring package or whatever their equivalent is. Like it wasn't loaded.
Yeah, I actually can't remember fully, but you could be right. I'm going to take your word for it because we had just left the Mazda dealer and now we're at Subaru. And yes, you could be right.
Yeah. So then we say to him, hey,
did we want to take that for a test drive though? Because we just wanted to test drive it, I thought.
Did we take the Ascent for a test drive?
We couldn't. Do you remember why?
That one was out of gas?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
The Ascent was out of gas?
Every car. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So we asked to drive a car. I thought it was just the Outbacks that were out.
No, babe.
The
like
Ascent.
I said to this kid, are you kidding me right now? Like, go
Yeah.
get your porter and get this car with some gas.
Yeah.
He didn't even know what a porter was.
He was only there for 2 days.
Is that what we found out? He was only there for 2
He said
days?
he said he'd only been there 2 or 3 days.
Okay. Well, he needs to find out what a porter
Yeah.
is.
And so anyway, so there's no gas in the Ascent. I'm like, okay. And I was really short on time. I actually had to start work that day.
Yep.
So I was like, look, okay, okay, I want to drive something while we're here. Can we take a look at one of the Outbacks?
Yeah, because we had not driven a Subaru at CarMax at all, and it was on your list. It had been on your list from June when we were in LA.
Right.
I was like, we're here. Just get in one of these to see how
Yeah.
it feels, whether it's a little one or small one. The engines are the same. Just, is it zippy? Is it not? Like, let's just
Right.
get in one.
So we went to get in one, and that car was also out of gas.
Yep.
And at that point, Denise was hangry because she hadn't had breakfast.
I was just annoyed that we're at a
And she
dealership
was
that are
annoyed.
selling $40,000 cars and they can't
Yep.
put gas in them. Like, that's to me insane.
And then that's when you and I in the parking lot had a quick little sidebar while he went to figure out a car that actually had freaking gas in it. You and I had a little sidebar about what we wanted from a vehicle because we were not on the same page.
Nope.
At all.
No.
I basically spilled it out to you that I don't care if the kids can fit in the back. And then you said to me, okay, well, it sounds like we're buying two different cars. Do you remember that conversation? How'd that go?
Clearly. I clearly remember that conversation. I said to you, you're picking cars that make no sense to our family. So you know
did
what?
say that.
You go get your car that you want that makes no sense for us. And then I'll get the logical car in 2 years.
And then I said to you, I'm not buying a car for our family. I'm buying a car for two empty nesters who are driving around the country trying to do a podcast. So
yeah, but I was just like, these cars are silly. They won't even fit our dog.
they would totally fit our dog.
The Mazda was like, didn't make any sense. It was so small, the Mazda, but whatever.
But it had a great roof rack. We could have put a cargo rack
put
up
the
there.
dog on the roof rack. Okay.
No, I did not say that. I would
Okay.
never say that.
I'm saying it's not going to fit the dog.
All right. You're right. The Mazda was too small. But the Outback, on the other hand, did have a little more space. It wasn't as zippy as the Mazda. And when we took it finally for a drive, when the kid found some keys.
He literally found one car that had gas.
I was happy with the drive. But I knew right away, there's no way in hell I'm buying from this car lot. There's no way. So,
No.
He actually texted me a couple days later and I couldn't even respond. I was like, look, I actually did respond. That's not true. I said, hey, not for nothing. I know the deal with Subarus is, generally speaking, you get some sort of warranty where if you take it back to get your oil changes and all that other stuff, you get a lot of stuff as part of your service plan. And I could not imagine bringing a car to your service department for any reason when they can't even keep gas in the vehicles in the parking lot.
That's a good text. I didn't know you said that.
I did.
Oh,
and so
good for you. That poor 22-year-old didn't even know what to do with that.
I don't think he got the text. I think it went to his internet or sales manager because he still texted me 2 days after that, seeing if I was still in the market for a Subaru. But anyway, that whole texting thing.
Did you cut and paste and resend it?
No, I didn't. I just let that one die on the vine. So we drove it and we left and we knew right away we were not going to be getting that car.
No.
So, and we weren't going to be getting that car from that place. So, we were frustrated.
Right. We were still short on time. You had to go for a Zoom, but as we were leaving, we saw an Acura dealer and you said, let's just pull in here. And I think it's because you saw a used car that was not an Acura, but you saw something on their website. You're like, I just want to. Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was a Jeep Cherokee.
All right. So what happened there, hon?
So we pulled in and immediately a young guy comes out, a little older than the previous guy.
25.
And slightly more knowledgeable. And he said, well, I'm looking at this. I said, I was looking for a car that was here. And he goes, we probably have it there. He goes, but I got to be honest with you. Why aren't you thinking of an Acura? And I said, well, I know that Acura and Lexus, which is the car we really wanted a couple days prior, are sort of in the same class, where they're like kind of luxury, but not totally like a Mercedes or a BMW, which I should just preface by saying we thought it would be ridiculous to try and drive around the country in a Merc or a Beamer or
not that we even afford
an
one.
Audi or a Saab, SUV.
They make a Saab SUV. Did you just date yourself?
They do.
They make us. I have never seen a Saab SUV.
Google it. I told him, I said, well, I don't know. It's like in my petitioning of friends on Facebook prior to even going out to look at cars, I got a lot of Jeeps. I got a lot of Jeep Grand Cherokees. I got a couple Hyundais, a couple Kia Tellurides. I got a couple Mazdas. I got a handful of Subarus, and I got a lot of Toyota Highlanders. And
So Acura was never
nowhere in that mix was Acura ever. So, I basically told him, like, I haven't really considered it because, I don't know, it feels sort of like it's a car that could be passé, like nobody really buys an Acura anymore. So we got in this Acura.
Oh my God. Okay, let me just tell you. First of all, it's cocoa colored.
We had already named her Coco.
Yeah, it's cocoa color with the beautiful, beautiful tan interior. You sit inside, it was like a cloud. Like you were, first of all, it was fully loaded. It was that was their top of the line, like fully loaded package in this car. It was a 2021, so it was a couple years old. Only had, I think, 40,000 miles on it. Maybe 35, I can't remember, but it was fully loaded. Like the most beautiful car, the wood that you like. It had the wood.
It did have the wood trim.
Oh my gosh. And then he drove it.
It's pretty.
And it drove like a dream, and it had pickup, right?
Yeah. It was, I would not define it as zippy, but it was solid. It had a solid engine under the hood. I believe it's a 6-cylinder. It was a solid beast underneath there. So it was beauty and beast together.
Yeah, we loved it. We loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is the car.
Yeah.
This is the car. How much was that car?
The car was $43,000. So if you're keeping track, we've crept up from 32 to 42 at this point.
Yeah.
That's not even counting tax and title and all that stuff. That was just sticker.
Yeah. So we're at this point just...
And it was a
bad decision making.
It was a 2020. So it wasn't, it was just a used car for that much money. And I was like, this is freaking ridiculous. But I don't know, maybe we were stuck in another time dimension where
I know, because when we got home, you did start telling me are we just like those people now that haven't bought a car in so long that we're like, we don't realize what cars really cost?
Yeah, that we think we're going to get a brand new SUV for $31,000.
And when you said that, I was like, oh, there could be some truth to that. We could be those people. So after we had that discussion and he looked up the Acura, he looked up the model and everything else. And he's like, wow. He's like, okay, this is a really great car. The price is fair. It's not fantastic. Let me see if I can just have a conversation with him about price. If there's any wiggle room.
Right.
How'd that go?
It did not go well at first. He knocked $250 off. And then he sent me the text and said, okay, so it's this much. And I said, wait a second, that's like $1,000 more than it was when we were there.
Yes.
And he goes, well, that's the internet price. So if you come in, it's a different price. And I'm like, this is bullshit. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to tell you. And, I wanted to know all the parameters. I said, well, what if I make a cash deal? What if I finance it? What if this? What if that? So turns out they don't really offer you a bunch of money off if you're just going to pay cash. You think they would, but they don't. Because
that was a lesson learned.
They lose money that way.
We learned that. We had no idea that they love for you to finance. We had no idea. We thought that people just finance out of necessity. No.
So, they get you on the lease or they get you on the financing. They could give two shits if you have money in your pocket and you can just pay outright for the car. You would think they'd say, oh, this is an easy sale.
Right.
The salesman would be like, let's do it. But I think there's always a sales manager behind the curtain in the office saying, yeah, this doesn't make sense for the dealership, Joey. So...
Well, I think that you're right.
So we batted numbers around back and forth all day long. And he said,
all day, because we got back at it was early. We got back at 10:30 or 11 and you were still at 2:00. I'm like, do we have a car? He's like, I have no idea.
No. And then at 4:00, well, at 2:00, I told him, no, I'm not interested. I'm not going to do it.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And then he said at 3:00, he goes, well, what if I knock $1,000 off? And I said, okay. So what's the final price? It's like, I just feel like this is all like magical Monopoly money at this point. So just give me the price. And so, he sent me a picture of the car with my name in it hanging and saying sold to James Gordon.
And what was the price?
Yeah. And the price was, so it was originally, oh my God, I have to remember now. It was originally $42,500. his original price he texted back to me was like, okay, we go with the sale. It's $43,500. And I said, this is bullshit. And then he's like, okay, well, what if I knock off this much? What are you looking to get out at? I said, I want the car for $40,500. And he goes, there's no way I can do that. He goes, and then I said, okay, I understand your position. And I was willing to walk away.
What was the final, like, what did
so
you
the final price that he got me to was $41,500.
Okay. So
he knocked off 1,000 and I had to come up 1,000.
So that was the sold to James Gordon sign for $41,500. Okay.
Right.
I went to go walk Roxy. You said to me, I think this might be our car. Like, we're just hammering it out. And I was like, oh, great. I come back 45 minutes later.
And I was really coming to terms, mind you, with how much money we were about to spend on a 2020 car.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Brutal.
Like, we wanted to spend 32 and now here we are at 42. But after the talk about, like, let's be realistic, it's like a $65,000 car, brand new, blah, blah, blah.
And it only had how much did that car have? Like 20,000 miles?
Yes,
16, something like that?
Yeah.
16,000 miles. So it was basically still new.
So I took the dog out for a walk, trying to just talk myself into like paying more for this car, $10,000 more than I wanted, more than that because it wasn't even with tax.
Yep.
And then I walk in and I'm like, all right, so what's happening? Are we putting a deposit down in the car tonight? Are we picking up tomorrow morning? What's the deal?
And I said, nope. And you said, why? And I said, because they sold the car to someone else.
Here we go again.
3 for 3.
Here we go again.
Yep. Tell
everyone what happened.
What happened was
little Joey made a deal.
Little Joey, I think little Joey found another buyer for that car. And he did say to us, in fairness, he was like, this car is not going to last here at this price. I'm just telling you, people who know Acuras know, and they're going to come in and they're going to trade in an older Acura and take this Acura home with them. They're brand loyal. I was like, fine, let them take it.
And they did.
Turns out they did. And so I got a call from Joey's manager, and she basically said, hi, I'm sorry. Oh, let me rewind a second. There was a caveat. Like, we had agreed on price, and then I just said, okay, I'm good with the price, but what can you do about this warranty? Like, this warranty that you're giving me isn't very long and it's outrageously expensive. I think the warranty was like $2,500 or something like that. And I was like, it was only going to last like 2 years. I forget what was left on the car plus whatever the 2 years was. And I said, that's way too much. That's way too much for 24 months of coverage. And so I said, what can you do about that? And that's when his manager called me like 2 minutes later and said, hey, Mr. Gordon, I just want to let you know that we made a mistake, and all this stuff you've been talking about with Joey. Yeah, it's we actually sold the car earlier this afternoon. And I was like,
wish I were
what
in
the
room
hell
when that happened.
is going on? So I said,
did you say to her, there's a
I go, yeah, I said, gee, that's funny because he sent me a placard with my name on it saying the car was mine. And she goes, well, yeah, but you were kind of waffling and we weren't sure if this sale was going to go through. So another buyer came in and they were ready to move on it, and we just had to do it. You understand, that's our position as a dealership. We have to sell cars. And I was like, I understand your position for sure. I said, so, it was kind of BS. And I really do think that you said the car was there that night, still on the website, but I just think it took their web host or webmaster.
It wasn't BS because it really was like, you're right.
It was gone the next morning.
So you're right. It did take the webmaster just some time because I was like, I said the same thing. That's crap. They want to hold on to the car.
Yeah.
They're going to get a better price for it. I was wrong. The next morning at 8 a.m., I looked and the car was sure enough gone. That's the second salesperson who told us the car was a good price and we should get it. The first one was the CarMax girl on the Lexus. And the second one was the Acura guy. I'm starting to think that maybe we should start listening to them.
It's just hard to take advice from somebody who's trying to sell you a high ticket item like that.
It is hard, but they were both right.
In the end, yeah. But I took it as like, well, I mean, I don't have to wake up this morning wondering, did I spend $42,000 on an Acura that like my grandpa would drive?
I know you didn't really like that color, although I kept saying it was a really nice color. You had said, oh, my grandpa always got brown cars. It wasn't even the color.
It was just that it was an Acura.
No, you didn't like the color though. And then the next day.
I wasn't crazy about the color.
Yeah, because you said grandpa always bought brown cars. And then the next day after the woman called and said we sold the car. The next day we're taking a walk and sure enough, there's a guy with a handicap license plate on a brown SUV Acura that was exactly the one we wanted to buy. And James was like, see, I told you. I'm glad I didn't get that car.
I was glad, actually. So, and there was a point where we were running a little bit desperate. So, we woke up finally. Let's wrap it up and just talk about what we actually did end up buying.
So the next day, he was exhausted. He's like, I've had it. I can't, I need a break. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go look for cars. So that's when I went back to the Toyota dealership just to try a Highlander, and they didn't have one on the lot. And then across the street was Subaru. Well, we didn't have a great experience at the one Subaru dealership. And I thought, all right, let me just go here and make sure they have gas in these cars and see if I can do a test drive myself. Because he was really liking the Subaru. Me, not at all. Not my car. Never would buy a Subaru. But I also had to just say to myself, like, I bought a car that he didn't like and he had to deal with it for 12 years. So, okay, I'll suck it up and I'll like deal with this car. So I test drove 3 different cars at that Subaru dealership. And I have to tell you, it was like a class in Subaru 101. Like this kid that was showing me these cars knew every single thing about a Subaru. It was insane. It was like he knew about 1998 Subarus. He knew about 2010 Subarus. It was crazy. So I left there. I test drove 3 different cars and he freaking sold me on the Subaru. I came home and I was like, okay, we have to buy this car.
It was the craziest story because I was like,
we have to buy this car.
I mean, I wanted something that was like sort of rough and tumble, like something we could beat the shit out of for the next 10, 15 years or gift to the kids and, they can go beat it up or whatever. And, I mean, I always liked the way they looked. I had plenty of friends that had them. And, it was like, if we're not going to get a Toyota Highlander, then we might as well get a Subaru.
I don't like the way they look. They look like station wagons, but whatever.
I know.
But
they do look like station wagons.
It was just an amazing car.
Damn, they look good with a kayak on top. So get ready to paddle your little ass up and down a river sometime.
Wait, are we just getting a kayak because we want the car?
We're totally getting kayaks for the car.
Okay.
So.
Oh my God. Okay. So I came home and I said, we have to buy this car. The one I wanted was an SUV. It was the Ascent. I loved it. Really super basic on the outside. It's like, I have to laugh.
Yeah, it's nothing like special on the outside.
Generic. It could be any car. You could take off the Subaru emblem and it could look like...
You throw a Honda You throw a Honda plate on it.
It could look like a Pilot. It could look like a Toyota. It could look... There's nothing about it that's special. Yep. But the inside was really nice. It had all the room I wanted. It drove great. Tons of safety features.
Same drivetrain, same frame, same everything as the Outback.
Yeah. And the kid explained everything to me. Told me it has a roll cage. Like if we ever roll the car, it's fine. It has steel beams going across the doors. He showed me where the beams are coming out at the bottom of the door and they lock into the car. And that feature is on every model. He showed me the engine and how if you get into a car accident, like head on, the engine drops to the ground. It doesn't come toward the driver and passenger. Oh gosh, I don't know. I could go on and on. All I know is by the end of the night, and I was there with him for probably 2 hours, I was like, we need to get a Subaru. Like I was sold. I came home and was like, okay, this is our car. And they had plenty of options on the lot. I mean, not a ton, but they had like 3 or 4, which is more than anyone else seemed to have.
So I was working and you came home extolling the virtues of the Subaru. And as you went to sleep that night while I was still working, all I could think in my head was, my wife is a lesbian.
Okay. Let's be honest. We did not even know it was associated with the lesbians until
I just thought it was super granola and crunchy. Like I just thought it was like everybody's going to say I already don't shave my armpits, but everybody's going to say you don't shave your armpits.
I knew those jokes were coming.
We bathe in patchouli oil and
those jokes were coming. I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that. What I didn't know were the other jokes.
Basically, everybody and their mother came out of the woodwork the next day and they're like, "Oh, you bought the lesbian car."
Yep, everyone. And then I would ask people like, okay, I asked my friend, I said, did you know that this car was a lesbian car? And she said, no, not at all. But funny enough, my girlfriend and her partner, lesbians, they have a Subaru. So I was like,
yep.
Every person I asked, and then some people were like, oh yeah, I knew that was a lesbian car. And then obviously listeners were more than happy to send
Yeah.
us DMs
They're
and
like,
say,
great lesbian car, guys.
congrats on the lesbian car.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, I got so many of those, which I will share with you guys.
One of my
all on
friends
Instagram.
said, great car purchase. My sister has one. And I was like, oh, cool. Is she a lesbian? And he was like, why would you say that? And I'm like, because everybody's telling us it's a lesbian car. So I'm fine with it. I'm totally comfortable in my sexuality. I'm great with driving a lesbian car. I really like it. The interior is dope. I can't wait to put a roof rack on it, a full rack, and the kayaks and all the bullshit. And, it rides really nice. I'm good. I'm good right now. And, if any of our daughters ever comes to us and says, Dad, I'm gay, then I know right away who I'm giving the car to.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I never even thought of that, but that is really smart. Okay.
Yeah. It's perfect. It's like it's an advanced purchase, just like our little house next door to your brother's house. It's an advanced purchase. Like we're set up for the future with our little house and our lesbian car.
Let's go for a ride.
Let's go for a ride. So anyway, you ended up being at the dealership a way long time that morning, but you were haggling with them. We were fortunate to be at a dealership where not only did they have gas in the cars, but when you realized that our warranty was already expired, basically, that the sales manager was actually willing to go halfers with you on another warranty plan.
Yeah, which is really nice. So that dealership was amazing. It's in Ocala. It's a Subaru dealership. The kid's name is Dalton. He was fantastic. He called. He's even checked up on me to see if I'm liking my lesbian car.
Yeah. What is it, Bill Bryan?
Yeah, Bill Bryan. And so
again, we're not getting paid, but happy to endorse. They totally took care of us.
Yeah, I left that night and there was no pressure. Like I literally left and I said, hey, I need to go back and talk about it with my husband and what model I liked and what I drove and bring him back tomorrow. There was no, oh, this price isn't going to last by tomorrow morning.
This is the internet price.
No, there was no. He was like, cool. He's like, I get in at 9 tomorrow, so hopefully I'll see you. It was like that simple.
Yep. And so if you follow us on social media, you've probably seen already and probably know already what we bought. But that's basically a story about how we ended up with a Subaru Outback
for our travels and how hard it was getting this car and how hard it is getting cars now. It's terrible experience.
It is. We'd love to hear your stories on social media about your nightmare situations with cars. If you, drop us a line at anywhere you can find us on social media and let us know, we will read it here.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would love to read some crazy stories. Ours was, 4 cars sold out from underneath us in a matter of 48 hours and nothing on the lot. And you're kind of stuck with what they have and good luck.
And as always, we do appreciate you guys reaching out to us. I've had several people reach out with locations that Denise and I should be hitting in the calendar year 2023. I actually wanted to read a couple tonight, but we started this thing so late. I have to get to editing this beast, so I'm going to call a lid on this. But I will say, keep those coming because in the coming weeks, you're going to hear about the maiden voyage of the Subaru, which took us to St. Petersburg, Florida, Naples, Florida, and Fort Myers, on the way back.
And it was a super comfy ride. It handled very well. It was great.
And lesbians everywhere love us, and we love them back.
We do.
Yes. So anyway, with that said, I think we should wrap up this episode so I can get it up to the bird.
Empty nest, full tank.
And I just want to say for the record, for your flu game, you did very well. I think you scored at least 38 points in this podcast.
Well, thank you.
Maybe a few assists.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
all right.
That's nice.
I held it together.
You won't be sitting the bench next week. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.